Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Winning Agenda's coverage of the International Twilight Struggle League. My name is Jesse Marshall, and it looks like we're staring down the barrel of a Marshall Plan headline from our opponent. So we kind of want to think about how we want to play this. So we've got Asia scoring, which means that we can, assuming they are headlining Marshall Plan, then we can headline decolonization. I think that's probably where we want to go with this kind of hand. So we don't get to dump Europe scoring for free, which kind of sucks. And it means we have to either coup into Europe or equalize on country count, both of which are going to be difficult with our ops. So it may be that what we end up doing is actually taking the Asia domination and then setting it off against Europe and just using the fact that we got decol and D-style to just get a better start. I mean, they could easily have defectors here and just be feigning us, but it's a bit of a weird setup for that. So they did have Marshall Plan, and we don't really have the good Europe cards to deal with that this turn. So look, I mean, they're going to get a Europe scoring out of us. It's probably going to be domination for them, but them's the breaks sometimes. So where will we go with decol? So we'll go into Lao to give ourselves domination. We'll probably go Lao. Vitalik, how you doing? I think we'll probably go Lao and then throw into Africa. And then we'll play NATO AR1 after the headline Marshall Plan is like a bit of a blowout, but also I think we kind of want to do that. The other option is to coup. We don't really have great coups other than spending NATO to coup Iran, which I'm just not super crash hot on here. So we could spend NATO to like take Thailand, move into Burma, and take Algeria, or move to Zaire. So we could go like 2 into Thailand, 1 into Algeria, 1 into Zaire. If we do this, and that's like okay. But the crap thing is here that we've got Europe scoring in our hands. That's an action round from us that they're getting for free. They're getting the points for free basically. Whereas we've got Asia scoring in our hand, which we actually need to play. So I think this is 5 VPs right now, and we can make it a little better, but we can also get blown out. So I think we actually probably want to pop the Asia scoring AR1, which means that they'll have a chance to coup us back. So for all of those reasons, I actually think that we'll put... it's a question of whether to go 1 into Malaysia, 1 into Laos, and 1 into Burma, or 1 into Burma, 1 into Laos, but then if we get couped out of Laos, we lose access to Thailand, or if we put 1 into Thailand, 1 into Laos, and 2 into Africa. I think that's what we're gonna do, so that they can't completely coup us out of Southeast Asia here. And then I think we'll put 2 into Africa, and I think we'll actually go South Africa, Algeria. So I think that's the safest way to go, and then just score Asia. So we'll sit with that. I know that was a lot of talking, but hopefully that all made sense. But it just goes to show, even from the start of this game, there are so many different options. Like what card we headlined was obviously an option, but then also having the read that they weren't going to defect as us because our Marshall planning and headlining decol. We also could have really gone various different places, and it is probably going to have a significant impact on the way the game plays out. Saving intervention, they're cutting their hand size, they're cooing with De Gaulle, and they rolled well. Okay. Don't love cooing at the China card. My AR1 decol play always used to be SA, Algeria, Malaysia, Burma. I don't know if that's good because of the possibility of a Malaysia coup. Yeah, I mean, probably the one in Thailand was like a little bad there for that reason, that they get to like coup Thailand, and that's pretty good for them. But it means that we're still in the region now, so it's okay. And they had to roll a 5 on a throw-up coup there, so yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we are going to coup Iran now to get DEFCON down. And then we're going to start using our other cards to spread. So the question is, do we use Formosan Resolution to coup, or do we use NATO, or do we spend the China card to coup Thailand? I don't love that. Even though it would take DEFCON down to 4. Maybe I do love that. Sorry, down to 3. Yeah. You know what? We're gonna play risky here. Oh. Alright. So anything but a 1, and that was good for us, but yeah, anyway. Wait, it was a 1. Yeah, like that was a high risk, high reward play. Because if we keep them out of Thailand, we get Thailand, and then we've got Korean War was my thinking, which means that we actually get to solidify Asia pretty well. And I would rather not use NATO to coup. However, we're now rolling a 1 leaves them with the opportunity to take Thailand back, which is, yeah, it's pretty big oof. I guess the one thing that we can say about this situation is now if they place influence, which they've chosen to do, we actually get to coup Iran. It's like, that's okay, and like they'd have to waste a lot of ops to try and like break Laos, in which case we can still play to Burma. So this is okay. We're giving them NATO, but yeah, whatever. We'll try and get a better position in Iran here. But yeah, that roll was that was a bad one. As far as ones go, that was a pretty bad one. That was our first roll of the match too, I think, at that point. So opening coups, always important wherever they occur. Game ends Kevin Goot earlier where I had a similar spot. I had to play VR, then coup Vietnam due to hand issues AR6. Of course I roll a 1 and he gets Thailand next turn. Yeah. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. So we've got to remember we've got 3 more ARs and we have to play Europe scoring, so we can't forget to do that. Don't want to die to a held scoring card turn 1. I think we'll just NASA them here. That seems like a pretty good use of NASA. We got DEFCON down, and we got to remove one of their influence. So yeah, I'm cool with that. So we've only got 1 more action round to actually place influence. We'll probably give them Formosan Resolution because we've got both of the D cards, there's like races on for everywhere on the board, which means that taking Taiwan is actually pretty bad. But holding Korean War here I think is pretty good for us because it's a good card. So if we hold D-style Korean War over to next turn, I'm pretty happy with that. So it's likely that we will go, oh, I don't mind that, Romanian abdication here. I mean, it doesn't give us the chance to even up Europe, but it at least gives us more influence to de-Stalinize, so that's good. Let's go Libya, Syria, I think, to threaten the domination in the Middle East. So, I mean, we could de-Stalinize there, but let's see what that looks like. I mean, it maybe means we win the race to Zaire. So if we go de-Stalinization, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And we go like 1, 2, 3, 4.
The challenge of the 20th century is
Like, I think that's fine. We're not really in a rush to get to Libya. And the earlier we get D-Stal happening, probably the better. Although it would be nice to get into Syria before the end of the turn, so they can't safely toss away Middle East. Scoring. You know what? I think we'll just leave it be on that. Yeah, let's pull the trigger on D-Star. Like, the good thing about that from a tempo perspective here, as opposed to Formosaning, is that now whenever we play operations, we can use them to spread, and the chances that they're going to get a coup are relatively low. The highest likelihood card that they're going to be able to coup with is CIA created. So getting this much spread on turn 1 is good, and we've just got so many targets for places to spread into, so it just means that if we get a good hand next turn, then we can really solidify a strong board position here, because we've got both sides of North Asia kind of sewn up, or all 3 sides, I guess, in that we've got Laos, we've got access to Afghanistan, and we've got Iran. We've also got a decent position in Africa if we can get the jump on them in Algeria. And we've currently got the sole access to South America. So in terms of coups next turn, now we've got lots of great targets too, which was the good thing about getting our reasonably good, well, it was a very good hand in terms of access cards, not so good in terms of ops, but that's fine. I'd rather have both the D cards than ops, but having our good access cards forced them to spread in these regions, which also gave us more good coup targets. So that's good. We have given up China though, so we need to be a little careful of that in terms of DEFCON suicide cards in the early war, because there are a couple of those. So, how are things, Michael, in the chat? If you're still there, how have things been going over there in the States? Had Australian basketball recommended to me by Twitch today. Australian basketball, look, I mean, I'm no basketball aficionado, but there are some decent Australian basketball players. You did watch some? What did you think? All right. So speaking of the aforementioned DEFCON suicide cards, we have got a couple of them here to be careful of. So let's headline, I think we'll headline Purge. Seems like an okay early war point. Hey Vance, thanks for dropping by. Yeah, our hand this turn was going to be really important for how this all turned out, and we've got 2 4-ups, which is good. We're going to headline one of them, but purging a blue opponent when we've got a pretty blue hand means that they've probably got quite a few red cards. Not that many red cards came out, considering we got both D-Style and D-Col last turn. There really haven't been that many red cards come out, although this was a De Gaulle leads France as well. But, you know, we might just ping them with blockade here. You never know. So this is not going to get defectors, which is good. They did pick up the Middle East scoring, which is fine because it's 2 points for us. And although we could have played into Syria, that would mean they probably wouldn't have headlined it. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with that. Just picking up those 2 points since it's going to be reshuffled next turn. And the destalinization, whilst it kind of gave them the opportunity to play, they're not really going to be able to... they're not really going to be able to race us now that we've got Red Scare on them. So yeah, I think this has turned out okay. This is a pretty good hand. I think it's surprised was the stadium full of fans. I guess the virus isn't as prevalent. All the sports here with nearly empty stadiums. Yeah, so we've been pretty lucky actually with keeping the virus down. We had a few months of lockdown last year, ending in November in my home state in Victoria. But the rest of the country's done pretty well. There's been a couple of short lockdowns in Sydney in New South Wales and in Brisbane recently as well. In Queensland, the state of Queensland. But so those are like the 3 most populous Australian cities. They've all had lockdowns of varying lengths, but we've managed to keep the virus under control somewhat, which has been really cool. We're very grateful for that. So we got kicked out of Zaire, which is a little bit annoying, but we get to close them off in Venezuela, and we can just kind of coup them in Colombia at some point if we want. We also got CIA created out of the deck, which I always like doing, particularly when I've lost the China card. This is a very painless CIA. Venezuela is a huge prize. Yeah. So we picked up Venezuela. I mean, I was expecting, honestly, that they would play their 1 influence into Venezuela. That's probably what I would have done if I was them. If they had done that, I would have actually probably played 1 into Brazil. But yeah, anyway, we've headed them off at the pass, so to speak, which I'm pretty happy about. Yeah, so I mean, that meant that we lost the coup, but like losing the coup is also okay for us since we're the ones that have got the Middle East battlegrounds, and this is what I was talking about kind of with, oh, that's a strange choice. So we'll add 5 in Eastern Europe. We've got to be careful because we've got independent reds, so we don't want to go playing into any countries affected by it. So Czechoslovakia is not, is it? Oh, it is. Okay. Ugh. So it's all, is it all five? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it's all 5 of those countries. Well, I guess we'll just yeah, tapping them out of purge is certainly an interesting choice. So now we've got some pretty strong plays. Like we've got 4-3-3 basically. We'll play the 5-year plan probably towards the end of the turn. We might poke South Korea here. And we can also afford to play this EEU as well now that we've got the Warsaw Pact influence. But let's go ahead and just 1, 2, 3. I think 4. So we still don't know where IP war is. We're in no rush to get to Libya, but spreading across South America here is going to be pretty good. And spreading across South America. Picking up South Korea would also be nice, and incentivizing them to put influence in there when we have Korean War is obviously the way to go. We'd also probably like to get to Libya this turn, although there is no rush to get to Libya since we got to Egypt first with Nasser. We kicked them out. Their access cards aren't coming, and hopefully now that we've got CIA out of the deck, in all likelihood we will get the coup next turn. For the same reason, I'm not super crash hot on pushing our way into Angola, because I think there's every chance we're going to get to just coup there next turn. I'm probably going to take Algeria if it remains this way though. But for now, do I want to take South Korea? We're going to coup Colombia at some point in the turn, but I don't think we want to do that now. You currently have Nevada bragging rights. Nice. Kevin Good's not my opponent though, is he? No, I don't think so. I think my opponent is Denis, from memory. So I think I'll put 1 in Algeria here, and maybe 1 into Pakistan because... Oh, maybe I'll just put another one into South Korea. I want to split it across that way because I don't want them just getting an easy 3-up into Algeria. 3-up for them is 2-ups, of course, this turn. 3-up into Algeria to take it. So we've got 3 more ARs. What are our biggest priorities this turn? I don't think Chile and Argentina are our biggest priorities. I think getting to domination in the Middle East is probably our biggest priority. Probably, like, although it's ops inefficient to try and eat into this European situation, I think we probably do want to do that. Okay, so they've opted to place influence back into Algeria and South Korea. Interesting. So 1, 2, 3... Czechoslovakia, no, Yugoslavia. So independent roads is out of the way now, so we don't have to worry about that. We can go straight into Yugoslavia. So taking Yugoslavia evens up Europe, but that's not sustainable. We don't know whether they have blockade or something else terrible coming for them later in the turn. At the moment, I think I'm probably happy to just spread. I do kind of want to take Algeria because I think it's a good country to have, but I also want to take South Korea because it's pretty important, and I kind of want to spread into North Asia, to be honest. Although them having potentially the war does kind of put me off that compared to perhaps Middle East spread instead. But I think let's trigger this and take South Korea as a starting point. Part of me is like, we could avoid having to coup Colombia if we just triggered the war, but like at 50-50, would I rather just take the country? So it does kind of... That's a tough one. Because like we could do something like this. 1, 2, 3. And then we get to Korean War. If Korean War is successful, then we get to take Algeria. I think that's probably better, because then we can play 5-year plan discarding Foremost and Resolution on our last action round. And I think that's better than 5-year plan discarding Korean War, or cooing and then 5-year plan discard Korean War. I don't know. I think this is probably slightly more efficient, although cooing Colombia does give us a really good chance at just getting a cheap domination there. So maybe that is better than taking the 50-50 Korean War.
That men and nations can cooperate.
Yeah, maybe it's better to actually hold 5-year plans, see if we draw Europe scoring.
Which men
Just Korean War to take South Korea and then coup Colombia with Formosan resolution. Because as we discussed earlier, we're kind of not in danger of losing Egypt or Libya at this point, unless they break in, but I think they're unlikely to be able to break in without spending the China card. So we didn't, doing it that way, like we haven't really poked them, but I think when we have such an ops advantage and there was such a race on for key countries, poking them is not really an efficient way to spend ops. Okay, so we got Fidel. That's good. They took Zaire, which we're fine with. I think filling up South Korea and then killing Colombia is actually better. Yeah, so let's just do that. It's worse if they have no rat or something. It's worse because if we did it this way, we don't have to coup Colombia. We can spend these 2 ups on like Algeria or something. But I actually think we want Colombia here, so for domination purposes. So I think, plus we guarantee ourselves we get South Korea. So the downside to doing the war is that if we fail, we have to then spend the 2 ups anyway in South Korea from our next action round. And then we only have basically a 1-op surplus, and that involves spending 5-year plan, a 0-op surplus if we spend Formosan. Whereas this way, I think we've got a good shot. Okay. 2 into France. Well, that makes me even more likely to want to hold on to this 5-year plan. And then try and hit Europe scoring next turn with it. So let's coup with Formosan and hope we succeed. Nice. I'm pretty happy with that turn. Like, we obviously could have hit some better stuff in their hand, but they gave us Warsaw Pact and Comicon and Fidel that turn. So it's not all bad, and they just didn't get a lot out of it. Like, they just kind of added some ops to some not particularly crucial countries. So Curtis back in Colombia, interesting. Alright, so we've got the Asia scoring, we've got Decol again. Okay. So we want to be careful of this Truman, make sure we fill up Austria, because we don't really want to lose 3 influence to that. Duck and cover, we might try and go to space early-ish in the turn with that. Unfortunately, even if we Vietnam revolts, we can't flip Thailand because we haven't got a 4-op. But we can flip Thailand with Decol, I guess. So, yeah, look, I think I'm actually okay to headline Decol here, even knowing that they could have... even knowing that they could have defectors. I'm just going to go for it. All right. Well, I'm glad we didn't headline Asia scoring, that's for sure. So 1, 2... do we really want the one in Burma, actually? Let's think about that. So IP War's out, but it's now back, so that's kind of irrelevant. Do you want to maybe go like that? Like, we've got Vietnam revolts anyway. I think that's pretty good. Like, it puts them pretty solidly on the back foot. And now we can EU. And then, like, we can duck and cover, but kind of don't really love giving them the VPs for free. The upside of duck and covering is that we then have EEU to play. Then if they coup, they won't coup because we will have played duck and cover. So the upside to playing EU is that then if they coup, then we can spend ops to take the other African countries. But our ops are pretty weak because duck and cover is then not playable, and 5-year plan is also not playable with duck and cover in hand because they've cooed. So it depends whether they've counted cards and they know that we have duck and cover. Either way, they've got the China card and they can take it back. I think we take it. And then I think they probably go Africa. In which case, we've got better access to the rest of the Asian battlegrounds here anyway. Even if they flip Thailand with the China card, we've got better access to the rest of the Asian battlegrounds, so I think it's okay. The really bad situation would be if we play into Pakistan, and if they flip Thailand, we play into Pakistan, they IP war us. That would be really bad. But let's hope that doesn't eventuate. Okay, so they are willing to spend the China card. That's not good. So we're at 2-2 on Battlegrounds, which means like we unfortunately kind of do have to play into a Battleground here. I think we trigger EEU again. So while we've had double decol and DSAR, which is undoubtedly a very powerful early war suite, we've also had double EEU that we've played, and our opponent has been able to dodge kind of most of the powerful red events. Like they didn't have blockade in hand last turn, which I was really hoping they would. So let's just go 1-2. I think it's Algeria is the most important country here. Europe is very restless, set in the tanks. Yeah, that seems pretty accurate. The other option is to play into Burma, so that if they manage to IP war flip Thailand, at least we can take India, but sheesh, that's pretty defensive. I think I'd rather be aggressive. So Panama is another option to even that up and then threaten Central American domination or control, but I think it's Algeria. Reasonably low ops rest of our hand, unfortunately. We might actually 5-year plan the blockade, depending on what happens here. Hopefully they haven't redrawn the war. That would be the pits. If they've redrawn the war and they roll the 1 in 3, that would be super trashy. Please no. They could also take a whole lot of Southeast Asian countries, but I think at that point I'd probably event Vietnam revolts. So like if they took Philippines and Malaysia, for example, I'd probably event Vietnam revolts and then use blockade to take Burma. But we'll see. We've currently got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 3. So yeah, if they took 2 countries, we're going to respond by taking 1, putting us ahead, and then we've got a cheap take on Burma. Yeah. So we'd still have a chance of dominating at that point. Cool. So they kind of went that route, and thankfully, I mean, they went to Vietnam, which is weird. So we get to flip Vietnam with Vietnam revolts. And like maybe they play the war now. I don't know, but I think this looks okay for us. They have to play 2 ups into Malaysia to take it back. Like we've had very blue hands, so like I think that there's every chance that they'll have redrawn a couple of red cards here, because I haven't really managed to get a lot out of the deck. Like we got D-Star and they got, I guess, the 2 3-ups out. Yeah, maybe there are a few red cards out actually. NORAD, overprotecting Thailand, equalizing Algeria. Okay. Well, I think we'll take the points now then, because there's not much advantage. We can't take Algeria with any card except 5-year plan, and we can't play 5-year plan. So let's just take those points. And then... I'm probably actually okay to just take the 50-50 5-year plan next AR. So if they don't... Depends if they take Algeria. I mean, they probably will take Algeria, let's be honest. The other question is, do we want to hold on to 5-year plan in case we draw Europe scoring next turn? But I've done that before. Like, I've tried to hold 5-year plan for way too long and just never drawn the 1 scoring card I want to draw, and just had this terrible blue card in my hand causing me all sorts of hand size issues. So I think I'm just going to dump it here, because it's a pretty advantageous time to dump it. Like, it goes +2 ops on either of these cards, which is pretty good. So they've got CNS in hand here, I think, which is interesting. They might be debating whether to play it or not. We're not going to space here anyway, so they get to CNS for free, basically. But they play containment instead, okay. So they take Algeria, they overprotect Angola. Well, Africa's looking pretty bad, but South America's looking pretty good. Central America's looking okay, although they did manage to fill up Panama this turn. So they had an awesome hand. Like 4-4-3-3 is a pretty powerful way to open up the turn. So we're gonna do this in case we hit the 50-50 on Truman Doctrine. And then I think we'll just keep swinging this around. So unfortunately, like, we kind of lost the race because we just had the worst ops hand this turn. We lost the race in... Great, so Truman goes for free. Nice. We lost the race in Algeria. Also because we prioritized, like, the turn that I invented Vietnam Revolts, I could have spent that instead taking Algeria, but I think getting the 5 VPs from Asia was better. So I played one into Libya just in case they like draw Sadat next turn. If they get the coup, I presume they're cooing us in South America instead. So like having one in Libya is kind of meh, but maybe not. Like maybe they'll coup us there. But we've still got one more AR, so we can fill up Libya if we want. So there's that CNS. And I think we will fill up Libya. We can't get to control in South America anyway with one more op. What other things can we do? Like we can overprotect the Koreas, which I guess is okay. We can overprotect Venezuela, although we have good relines there. I just assume they're cooing us here. There's not much we can do about that. Like there's no non-battleground that we can coup, and there's no way that we can get mill-ops. I guess we could blockade them, but I think blockading them is actually just worse. We'd rather have that in the deck for later. Because, like, they know we had blockades, so presumably they've kept something reasonable in hand. Pardon me. To discard, although, yeah, I'm presuming it'll be Suez Crisis or De Gaulle that they've redrawn. And I just kind of don't want to give them the opportunity to get that out of their hand for free, to be honest. Rather make them spend an action round doing it. Okay, well, they got 2 UN interventions, so that's pretty good for them, I guess. So there are those mill-ups, and there goes our South America domination. Okay, so we got Junta, which means we get Mexico, coup, Colombia, depending on what they headline, but it's almost certainly going to be a Junta headline for us. We've got a pretty free alliance for progress. We've got a space colonial rearguards, a puppet governments that's not too painful necessarily. We've also got the opportunity to headline Brezhnev Doctrine, although I'd rather try and keep that. And we've got the opportunity to press for a pretty good Middle East scoring here. So this is looking alright. I mean, obviously them drawing Sadat or Camp David Accords dependent. But let's just headline the Junta and see where we go. OAS founded. Good. Well, unfortunately we have to go first, is the slightly awkward thing. So we'll place 2 into Mexico, and I think coup Colombia. Just to try and get them out of South America, and also because like we obviously get to go next, so wherever they place their 2, we can kind of contest it a bit. I guess the downside is if they go into Haiti, Nicaragua, maybe we lose Cuba, but not much we can do about that. I think we'll just give this a go. Well, there's that 6 to offset that 1 on the first coup. And that gives us a nice ability to also realign in a pinch, but like with DEFCON at 3, we're obviously get a coup first. I mean, we might place influence and let them have the coup, or we might not coup in South America at all. We might coup in Africa. But yeah, we've got a few options here and a pretty good hand, I have to say. Okay, so they went 2 into Argentina. That's really interesting. So I think it's probably coup Argentina at that point. But cooing with anything other than flower power is potentially bad. Cooing with flower power is also potentially bad. Whereas just like playing a 3-op and playing 2 into Argentina, 1 into Chile is actually like potentially better. It means that they get a coup, but cooing kind of has the potential to be terrible, whereas placing influence doesn't. Because the alternative is we coup, and if we roll badly, then they just get to place influence, and that's pretty good for them. Don't really want to give up Milops VPs again, though. And I kind of don't want to have to worry about South America, which... I don't want to have to worry about coups, actually, to be honest. I think we'll coup Argentina with Alliance for Progress and just hope we don't roll a 1 or a 2. Come on, 3+. Whew. Alright, well, we can't complain about our luck so far, that's for sure. Because now the nice thing about this is like they're just under immense pressure now in South America. We're under a bit of pressure in Africa. That's certainly not to be understated, especially since we've got 2 cards that give them access to Nigeria in our hand, which is super awkward. We have actually got salt negotiations, which is pretty, like, actually really good here, because we can salt negotiations for decolonization or for junta, raise DEFCON, and because they have the 1 stability battleground countries, they're in a position of far more vulnerability than us. Okay, so they rolled well in that coup, and we did not succeed in the war. But I think that's okay. So we can now go 1-2, take control, and then go 3-4 here for just an extra VP. I kind of like that. And then I like to imagine the war was very close to succeeding. Yeah, fair call, Michael. It did kind of feel better. Like, even though a 4 is functionally exactly the same as a 1 in that situation, I felt happy that we rolled a 4. I was like, oh, nearly. Indeed. Alright. So how do we want to play the rest of this hand? I actually think we are going to salt negotiations here. So we're probably going to salt negotiations, space, colonial rearguards, and then play junta. The problem is, like, with playing salt negotiations, we've then only got 1 good coup card in Brezhnev Doctrine, but they've only got 1 good coup card as well. So it's kind of like... we only probably get 1 coup because they're probably going to coup once as well. So it's a bit much of a muchness in a way. Cool. So I think we'll actually grab decolonization now, probably. So we get back decol, increase DEFCON, then we can coup with Brezhnev Doctrine. The problem now is that we get into a bit of realignment strife, but I guess decol helps to solve that problem too. Yeah. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I like decol. So we get to go like coup Angola and then play decolonization. That seems okay. We've then got no more plays for the rest of the turn, basically. So our 4 plays are going to be decolonization, Brezhnev Doctrine, Middle East scoring, space colonial rearguards, or space puppet governments. Probably space colonial rearguards. Well, a VP, very nice. Well, they kicked us out, but we are still Oh, okay, well this is interesting because they've given us Nigeria now. So we can kind of go 1, 2, 3. Or we can coup. Actually, I think we coup is better. Giving up another coup is not great. Although it does force them to coup again. And they probably coup Nigeria, but they probably guarantee success. But then we guarantee... Do we guarantee getting anything out of that? Yeah, we guarantee getting Algeria, which is actually not irrelevant. Sorry, we don't want to put one into Angola. We want to go Algeria... Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Play that. Algeria, Nigeria, Zaire... And it's question whether we go into Saharan states here or South Africa or into Thailand just for like the grief. But yeah, the grief for one in Thailand is super tempting because it means that we can flip it with the China card if we want. But the one in South Africa just puts them a little bit further away from dominating. The one in Saharan states makes Algeria just that bit safer. The one in Tunisia helps protect Lebanon. I think if we're going to dump 3 from... If the plan is to dump 3 from Brezhnev Doctrine into Algeria, then I'd rather put the one in Saharan states, I think, at this point. Just to protect it. And to force, like, some slightly weirder plays from them. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. They may have SA scoring and they might get away with it here. Not much we can do about that. They rolled well in their coup, and them getting a coup was always going to be the result of SALT negotiations in, but I think the SALT improved our plays significantly this turn on the whole. So I can't complain too much. So I went with influence instead of cooing. Took Brazil, which like I think is actually okay for us since we can go into Uruguay and then go for the realigns next turn. So they were worried about South America, we were worried about Africa. Should we have kept the foot on the throat more in Brazil? I don't know. In any event, let us consider what we want to do here. Do we want a coup? Do we want a coup? Do we want a coup? I think we want to take Algeria, and then we want to assume that they're going to have the coup. Because I think cooing Zaire here is just not as good. I'd rather have the more stable country. Yeah, I don't know about how I played that. That whether playing back into Brazil was actually the play there first. Before the decal? Don't think so though. Our hand's pretty awkward. So we're about to pick up 6 VPs, which could actually be more. Maybe cooing Lebanon was actually a play here. Did not think of that. So they are cooing Nigeria, and they rolled 1. Very grateful for that. So there's kind of a question actually about whether playing JP is better here, and then just cooing Lebanon. But that's like super risky. That gives them the chance to take Poland off us. And I don't really love that. Like Poland's pretty secure at the moment. The other one would be to play puppet governments, but that gives them like way too many good plays. Colonial Rearguards is obviously unplayable. We could play the China card. Could play China card Middle East scoring, but China card doesn't let us keep them out of Lebanon anyway. So it does let us take Zaire though. Nah, I think we have to stick to the plan. And we have to try and get ourselves a better hand for next turn by getting rid of one of these. JP is slightly more playable than the other two, so I think we will get rid of Rearguards. And especially because we can kind of defray puppet governments a little bit by going into some of the relevant places ourselves before it resolves. So yeah, I think Rearguards is probably going to be the space here. We got rid of a fair few good blue cards. Okay, well they had Europe as well, fair enough. So we go back to even. and then we'll go to space with the rearguards. And fail. This is certainly a tight match. We're like one good hand away from really pressing an advantage. I think we had a pretty good hand this turn, and we probably didn't use it as best we could. Although we did manage to take 2 African battlegrounds, which is not irrelevant. But we gave up 1 South American battleground, so we kind of went backwards a little bit. Don't mind that, I have to say. It gives us a real shot at Middle East control. Because now, even if they Sadat us, we've still got Muslim Revolution in the deck. Those VPs are also obviously really handy. If they choose to go to Israel and not go to Zaire, then there's every chance that we can end up dominating Africa here, to be honest. Okay, so they choose to go Africa, which means that we can try and push for that Middle East control, and we can also try and push for South American control, potentially. Alright, so headlines here. Muslim Revolution obviously does nothing. Allende, it's already full. Ask Not, we don't want to give them. So we might play that on our last AR. We also don't want to give them a series of skirmish. This is like pretty awkward hand. We haven't really got any headlines other than PEC, which is pretty bad. We could headline Lone Gunman, but I'd rather keep it in the deck. Trying to think if there's any weird headline options we have. No, I think PEC is probably still the best option we have. And then like coup AR1 with Muslim Revolution on Brazil, maybe. I don't love that though. I think I prefer couping in Africa and probably using one of our law ops cards to do it. So yeah, I think let's go with PEC. Okay, well they got our Muslim Revolution, but there's no way that we could prevent that. Because we were never going to headline it. So. And that solves the question of what are we going to play next? We're going to play Missile Envy. So Venezuela's probably their coup here. Which is kind of unfortunate. Like we did lose quite a bit by losing that. Although they might have Africa scoring, so that is always a possibility. Okay, so they've gone Africa. And we will go Missile Envy into Angola. And I think... like we could kind of play a bit of a coup game here in Africa. We could play one into Zimbabwe, or we could play one into Saharan states. The one into Saharan states helps protect us. The one into Zimbabwe helps us then go like coup Cameroon with kitchen debates and threaten to realign. Zaire. The other option is Uruguay, but I don't really like putting one into Uruguay. Or we can try and shore things up in Asia. So we're probably going to have to give them Ask Not this turn and just kind of cop it. So I'd rather do that sooner rather than later before we've committed too much to any of the regions that might be scored. Because they might actually even up South America in the sense that even if they have South America scoring, they might not care that much about it. I think Saharan States is a bit more of a defensive play. Now let's try this Zaire sort of action. See how we can go. So now they can like place one into South Africa, place one into Saharan States or something, and then try for some realigns on Angola and Saharan States. Algeria and Angola. What would we do then? Probably place 2 into Botswana. one into Israel, actually, just to keep that pressure on in terms of Middle East control. Because I do really want to make sure that when we get to the end of the game, we have a really strong position here and a really strong position here. Because we're significantly ahead in both at the moment, and they're the hardest to significantly impact. Cultural Revolution being gone is kind of a pain, though. They played that last turn, didn't they? Yeah. Like, that makes me less likely to want to play the China card to take India, for example. Okay. So they went 1 there. So I think I'm actually happy to coup Cameroon now.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Which kind of forces them to either coup, like they can't just go 1 in Botswana, 1 in South Africa now. We're probably not going to get time, nor do we really have the ops in our hand to be playing into Uruguay, which would be another nice thing here, because then we can have like a realignment on Uruguay and, sorry, on Brazil and on some countries in Africa when we spend this Ask Not, but yeah, I don't think we're going to get away with, we just don't have the ops to do that. So they've got Summit Coup, presumably Zimbabwe, yeah, okay. They're all pretty well, which is fine. Do we go for the like 0 rail line on Zaire and just try and get lucky? Like, that's actually just going for a coin flip. Or we can do something like playing Ask Not, seeing what they discard. I think that's actually the play. Let's just trigger this and see what goes. And then we can make a call. So if they, for instance, if they don't discard South America scoring, then we can play into Uruguay. And like Saharan states. And then unfortunately the only card that we can realign with is like Usuri, which is pretty bad. But maybe that's still okay. No, that's pretty bad. Like that puts at risk North Korea and okay, so they got rid of South Korea, South America scoring, that kind of solves that. Interesting that they got rid of a few 1-ups there. Like they could easily draw bad stuff now. So I think rather than realigning because of the way that went, I think we'll place Influence and we'll probably go... So Southeast Asia scoring is still out there. Taking Malaysia would be okay because it puts them in a weird brush war position, but really the fight's in Africa right now. So going ahead in South Africa would be okay, but we just don't have the ops to finish that off. So going to Botswana would also be decent. And then we can just like coup Zimbabwe again to grief them a bit. I think I'm okay with that. Although, yeah, this Middle East thing is good, but we just don't, I think, have the ops to fight that at the moment. I think this lets us just kind of solidify things in the mid-war regions. And then hopefully now that those things are a bit more stable, we can then turn our attention to trying to take Israel and Saudi Arabia and India, which are things that I really want to get back to doing sometime soon. But unfortunately, I mean, like, we knew that this hand was going to be a little difficult because we were carrying over 2 difficult cards. Getting Missile Envy didn't help because we lost our most powerful card. But yeah, the rest of it hasn't been great. Having 3 1-ups is never ideal. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty strong. We'll just go Yande there. They can have their strong Africa scoring. They've earned it. I think we will maintain this hand size. Oh, brush war. Okay, Algeria, nice. Fail, very good. So I think we'll coup Saharan states now because we just don't want them getting us out of there. We could take it, but I think cooing it's better. Yeah, let's go with that. Cool. Well, that worked all right. They now don't even dominate because of country count. So we've got 2 more plays. We have to think about what we want to do. It's probably going to be John Paul getting played rather than holding that across, which is pretty awkward for the late war. Like, there is every chance we can lose in Europe here this game in the late war. So part of me doesn't want to do that because I'd rather just not have to worry about that. Maybe giving them the China card's not so bad. Okay, well, I chose to event Nixon. Well, we can make puppet governments not quite so bad by playing into India and Saudi Arabia here. I think if they puppet governments into Nicaragua and Haiti, I'm okay with that, all things considered. I definitely don't want to give them Ussuri because I just can't afford to give them access. So let's just space Ussuri for now and leave ourselves some flexibility. Picked up the VP. See where they go. Yeah, I think I'd rather risk losing Cuba rather than open up the avenue for them to go for Europe control in the late war by playing John Paul. I don't think there's anywhere else that I'm super worried about them going with puppet government's influence. It's like they can go Burma or Afghanistan, which is a bit annoying. Burma's actually pretty annoying now that they've got the China card. Yeah, maybe I'd need to play into Burma and India and they just puppet governments into Saudi Arabia, and I don't love that. Look, either way, we're going to have to play one of these cards. Yeah, it's unfortunate we're now 2 battlegrounds down. Like, I mean, actually, it's 1 to 4. We're 2 battlegrounds away from dominating Africa, so there's kind of not a huge chance of us getting a positive score there. South America's gone. Oh, realignment, okay. Fair enough. I still think it's less of a problem for us to give them puppet governments. But we've just got them so locked nicely out of these early war regions. It's just so tough. Maybe I play JP and I just, like, massively overprotect Poland. Maybe that's good enough? Yeah. Took a risk. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. So they had brush war. ABM's still out there. Missile Envy's gone. It would be good to get a few more points out of Southeast Asia scoring if we can. It was very fortunate that brush war failed in Algeria. Whew, that was a hairy moment. So this Colombia situation is a bit annoying, just in that we're not realistically able to coup them out of there. I mean, Shay wouldn't be a bad draw for us next turn. I wouldn't mind headlining Shay, to be honest. Coup Colombia, coup Zimbabwe, and then coup Angola AR1. I'd be down with that. Alright, they are in control of France, well and truly. So this de Gaulle's not going to be very good. Quagmire, South African unrest. Interesting. So can nuclear subs last AR? Probably. CMC is not going to get played. They have the China card, but they don't have access to India at the moment. Camp David Accords and public governments would probably want a space. Might actually want to hold Camp David Accords to space next turn so that they don't get it at all. That would be ideal. I think I probably want to headline ABM Treaty and coup Brazil, to be honest. Panama would also be a really good coup here. So coup Brazil and then coup Panama, that's always possible. Obviously it's tempting to coup in Africa, but I'd kind of rather solidify the Americas, to be honest. So let's go with this. Okay. Annoying. So now do we coup Africa instead because we're almost certain to succeed? And taking Zaire and Angola would be sweet. Or do we take the slightly riskier coup on Panama, given that it has pretty good ops payoff? VPs payoff. I think I probably just want to take the cert here and go for Zaire. So let's do that, and then we'll just go for Angola, and then we've got South African unrest to back it up. Yeah. So let's coup. We're going to hold De Gaulle in case we get bear trapped. We're going to coup Angola with this one. Which is good and puts us now in a pretty decent position for Africa. It's unfortunate that we're now going to have to cop some of this because we're purged, so we can't space anything. But, you know, whatever, you get purged sometimes. So we're going to have to probably prioritize, like they're going to just go hard on Africa and try and repair this damage that we've done. I probably want to try and fill up Saudi Arabia though before they get there. But it's going to be pretty awkward to do so. So maybe we don't get to do that. I think we probably then, maybe we hold Camp David Accords, although, we don't really want to play nuclear subs and let them coup us back here. I don't know what we do. We'll have a think about it. Well, this is weird. I guess maybe they've got Central America scoring. Do we play Nicaragua, Haiti? Because it's also a more efficient way for us to use ops? I mean, maybe. As in, cooing's a more efficient way for us to use ops. And like forcing them to coup this turn is actually pretty good. We could also quagmire them, but quagmire here. Is quagmire better than 2 ops? I think it probably is. So they get to discard their worst card with 7 cards in hand is the problem. Maybe we'll just hold the quagmire for a bit later. Let's place this. Let's use the De Gaulle. Place there. Try and bait a couple of coups out of them. We'll probably play South African Unrest next action round, actually, and put 1 in South Africa, 2 into Botswana. Or do we put 1 into Botswana, 1 into Angola? I don't know. Botswana's not actually really that important here, is it? Because we've got Zaire at this point. So maybe 1 into South Africa, 2 into Angola is better, because then even if we do play nuclear subs, they're harder coups for them. Okay, well, I'm glad we kept that quagmire. So we get to do something. Come on, fingers crossed. Yes. Whew. Yeah. So saw that coming. Thankfully, parried it away with the nail-biting 4. Yeah, so we'll see what they do. So we still just haven't got the free space to move on the Middle Eastern Asia in the way that we wanted, but whatevs. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty good. De Gaulle's going to get reshuffled, so we actually still do have a chance to attack France. So I'm not going to give them this. Oh, I'm going to play 4 more cards. Yuck. Okay. So maybe we will have to give them this at some point. But we're not going to give it to them now. We're going to play this and go... Oh, no. Other one. Just again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play the event. Add influence adjacent. And... go... Playing 2 into Botswana is like pretty aggressive in terms of threatening the reline, but I don't think we're in an aggressive position. I think we'll just do that to make it a bit harder for them to take Botswana. Kind of hedging our bets, so to speak. So I wonder if they do actually have Central America scoring here. What do we reckon? Have they got it? The reline on Cuba was pretty rando. If they didn't have Central America scoring. Like, that was just completely out of nowhere. But... what are they doing? So they're trying to solidify the Africa position, which is, like, really fantastic as far as we're concerned, because we're very much on the back foot with this dreadful hand now. We don't really have any other plays for the rest of the turn. So I just can't countenance playing this puppet governments. It's just so bad for us. But Camp David Accords just really takes away one of our great opportunities to force a whole lot of VPs out of them, or a whole lot of tempo. This is kind of like, eesh. So where does puppet governments get them? And it gets them Saharan states, Guatemala. Nuclear subs at this point is pretty bad, leaving them with 2 action rounds. I'd rather do that on my last action round. So maybe I can afford to puppet governments. Maybe I can go India, Saudi. Maybe we just coup here. Like, as in, maybe we just coup Saharan states with nuclear subs, and then, like, what does it leave them? 2 ARs? I think they've got the scoring card, so it gives them, like, 1 AR to coup one of our battlegrounds. That's probably better. Let's just coup Saharan states now, because we're not going to coup Saharan states with one of these. And hope that we roll pretty well. Well, we rolled very well. Again, can't complain about our rolls this game. They've been pretty good. So now, like, yeah, they can coup Zaire. That's pretty awkward. But they have to have a high ops card that's playable, that works for them. Like, and they have to roll well. So yeah, access. So now what are we going to play last? I think it is going to probably be this puppet governments. Like, do they have Africa scoring? Do they have Central America scoring? I don't know. The plays have been all over the place. Maybe they have both. Hopefully they have both. China card coup. Wow, okay. Boom. Take that, Zaire. Well, friends, it's going to be a place influence in Saudi Arabia and India. Oh, it's only 1. Ew. Ugh, puppet governments for 1. I think it's less bad actually to play Camp David Accords because it only interrupts the Middle East, whereas puppet governments can actually go like Asia, Middle East, and Central America for a pretty annoying play. So I think actually we'll just place 1 here with this, and then we'll try and, like, we might coup Egypt next time. We'll see how we go. If we're going to coup a 2-up country, though, we're a 2-stab country, we're probably cooing Panama or Brazil, let's be honest. But yeah, that's okay. Camp David's annoying, but yeah, I think that's less damage to us than playing puppet governments and having them end up in, like, Guatemala, India, and Afghanistan, for example. They've now played IP War twice for ops, by the way, too, so it's interesting. So they did have the Africa scoring, fair enough. They picked up a VP, but I think we played that pretty well since we're under Purge. And since we had to play nuclear subs at some point in the turn. Alright, well, we've got the Missile Envy and the We Will Bury You, but I'm still just not super keen. on playing that. Playing Miss Lemby, that is. Flower Power's out of the deck. I mean, maybe Miss Lemby's okay, but they just played Defectors, so Defectors is back in the deck. I think I want to headline Liberation Theology, though, with this Central America scoring, and just go 2 Panama, 1 Guatemala. Do I? 2 Panama, 1 Guatemala? Yeah, probably. And then... And then probably, yeah, just place influence. Oh, no, we'd probably coup with We Will Bury You at that point. Yeah. Okay, let's go with that. Ugh. Back-to-back purges. Ouch. Thank goodness we have got this China card. Otherwise, we would be dead to that grain sales. So do we want to play the grain sales and just place 2 into Panama? I think maybe we do, to be honest. Because, like, they might get puppet governments if we're unlucky. They might get Panama cannot return. So either of those would be annoying. The rest of the cards would be pretty good. So they got Missile Envy, they could event Missile Envy, they could get We Will Bury You, and they could coup Panama with We Will Bury You. So that's not great. So we'd be... It would look like this. It would look... Oh, we can only place 1 with this. Okay. Well, that kind of kiboshes that idea, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3... Maybe we just... Central America scoring is a bit greedy. Because then we're still lumped with this grain sales in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so we'd only have... It would only take them reducing our hand size by 1 for us to die at that point. I'm not super keen on that since we've got no other way to increase DEFCON. And they could easily have 5-year plan, I think. Let's just double check that 5-year plan's not out. Oh no, we held 5-year plan just the mid. Well, but it just got reshuffled. Okay. So they could have 5-year plan. So I think the upshot is that we have to play grain sales to Soviets. And I think we are going to place... Are we? No. Yeah. So we're going to do this. And we're going to event grain sales to Soviets. If that hit We Will Bury You, we would have died as well, is worth noting. Is that right? No. Because they'd have to play We Will Bury You for the event. Yeah, yeah. And then they don't get to coup. Whew. Gosh, that's confusing. But anyway, back-to-back purges. Oofed. You don't love to see that. And they do coup, and they do roll well. Okay. But I guess we get SOCGov, so that's some consolation. Let's go 1, 2, 3. And then... I mean, we might as well place 1 in West Germany, right? Seems decent. Sure. And then we'll just try and pick up these 5 VPs next AR. Whew. Escaping DEFCON suicide is good, because I think we've got a pretty decent spot on the board. Because all it would have taken is, yeah, for them to have 5-year plan, or... I don't think there are any other ways that they could have reduced our hand size at this point. But the fact they knew we had grain sales and were under purge, we just had to play it. So they do coup, but we still get to dominate, which is great. And there are no other scoring cards that were unplayed at that point, I don't think. Everything else had come out since turn 3, so... That's that in terms of known information. So I think we do want to try for... I mean, it's going to be hard to try and brace for Israel this turn, but we certainly want to try for like Saudi Arabia, India, I think. interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, if they've redrawn Africa scoring, I think we just want to coup. Really, like we need Milops anyway. So I think let's just give it a coup. See how we go. Well, certainly rolling well on these one ops coups on African non-battleground countries. So they've got Shay, which they're probably going to space. That's about it in terms of good Soviet mid-war cards that we haven't seen yet. Hopefully they've picked up Lone Gunman or something in the reshuffle. And we can pressure their hand size, but... the third Indo-Pakistani war going on a coup. I think we can probably spend our good card now, as annoying as it is. Because if they want to keep trying this Africa caper on, then we can just play into like Ethiopia if we want to. And now that IP war's out of the way, we can just go ahead and start moving into India again and really solidifying this Asia domination. Brezhnev went into the reshuffle too because we didn't play it and they didn't play it. So there are a few red cards out of the way, but I think slightly more blue cards out of the way, which does bode a little bit better for the late war in terms of how the deck is stacked. Willy Brandt, of course, and we had Sokov, so that turned out alright. Get something out of it at least. A VP and an influence. We'll just go... I think we'll coup again, actually, because we want the other mill up, so we'll just do this and hope that we don't get the 1 in 6. And let's roll well. Again, don't mind it. Like, I don't really get that move by them, unless they don't have any 3-ops in hand. Like, that may be the case, but just playing into Ivory Coast and into Southeast African states is much more powerful if they do have Africa scoring. If they don't have Africa scoring, then who cares? But yeah, it's kind of a weird turn. We're not being put under heaps of pressure under Purge. I'm just going to get some water, I'm thinking. Well, that is... sorry for shouting, but I am super happy about that. So we have to play Puppet Governments finally this time, or kind of cop it. I don't love playing PCR here because even though that we get to retake Venezuela, because now they can realign us out of Venezuela pretty safely and like actually have a chance of controlling it, but whatever. So we've got bigger fish to fry in other continents, I think, at this point. Although, like, it is still pretty close. Like, they're ahead in Europe. Yes, we're ahead in Middle East and Asia, but if they stay ahead in Africa and they pull ahead in Central America, then they end up with 3, potentially 4 if they get, like, good coups and whatever else in South America. So we certainly can't rest on our laurels in terms of late war stuff here. We have managed to make pretty decent inroads into France, though. So a De Gaulle headline wouldn't be too bad. Cambridge 5. No more scoring cards. And then, yeah, like, I think we probably just Puppet Governments into Burma. Really? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, it's okay, it's not great. I think would I rather just play the China card here? No, you can't really go into turn 8 as the Soviets and just be like forking over the China card for nothing, but... okay, I'll give them Afghanistan. as much as it pains me. And probably Malaysia and Taiwan. Yeah, that's if that's what they want to do. I mean, they might elect to go somewhere else. They might elect to try and even up the Middle East by taking Gulf states. You never know.
Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right.
But yes, 2 purges later, and we were finally forced into playing that puppet governments that I really didn't want to play.
Here in this hemisphere,
But let's be honest, turn 7, puppet governments with influence in every battleground country on the board, and most of the relevant non-battlegrounds, it can get worse. So they did go into Argentina. Our OPEC was, of course, the card that I had overlooked, that they had to have in hand. Alright, well, this is a real shocker. So there's that Sadat, which is like weirdly turning up on turn 8. I don't know how that works. Did they play it earlier? They must have played it earlier. And I just didn't notice. Did they discard it to the... Anyway, they might have discarded it to the Arsenal. Who knows? They discarded some 1-op cards to that. Okay, so I think we headline Brezhnev Doctrine here and coup Brazil if we can. Brushwell Venezuela most likely. Awkward. What other good targets do they have? Pakistan's a good target. Algeria's an okay target. Mexico's pretty good, but they can take Mexico anyway. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do here. I've got lots of options. But Brezhnev Doctrine gives us a chance to fight here. Or a fighting chance. To force, finally, some... Hey, they failed. Nice. Some positive plays for us across the board. Pardon me. So, I think we coup with Iron Lady as a 4-up on Brazil. Let's give it a go. Alright. Not as good as it could have been, and that puppet government's... they already had adjacency from Venezuela, so the puppet governments didn't really hurt us, but wasn't great. So we've got 12 minutes to play 3 turns, so I need to speed this up a little bit. So they're going to take Brazil, and then my next play is probably going to be... take Peru? Oh, that's pretty bad. Then they just realign us in Venezuela. Maybe it's coup Colombia. Maybe it's just score South America at that point. For +1 point. See what they got. They got test ban, cool. So they get Brazil. And then I think we just score it. Cool. Bada bing, bada boom, 2 points. And now we can focus on really knuckling down and taking our advantage in the mid-war regions, ideally. Well, like, obviously we've got a couple of pretty awkward cards in hand, like shuttle diplomacy is not ideal, but when you're coming out to final scoring, it's not such a big issue, particularly when our position in both Asia and the Middle East is pretty good. Flip Australia. Ooh. We haven't even got adjacency to Australia, let alone the ability to flip it. Space Racing the Reformer. That is a failure. We will place influence with South African unrest into... No, we won't. We'll place influence with shuttle diplomacy into Israel. See if we can tempt them to play into Egypt. I doubt we can, but give it a go. What's our next play? Our next play is probably AWOC sail to Saudis, 2 into Saudi Arabia, 2 into India. I'm okay with that. then probably space tear down this wall, and then we might space containment. AWOC's sale to Saudis does prevent Muslim revolution, but that's no big deal really, I don't think, with the board as it is. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think Marine barracks bombing is going to be the big card, the big red Middle East card in this late war. It's interesting that earlier on in the mid-war, they went for that realign on Cuba. They could have realigned Venezuela, and I think it would have been a lot more profitable for them across the whole game, especially since, weirdly, that turn they didn't even have Central America scoring from memory. So we have to go to space with this. We can actually go to space with this too, which is pretty good. Yeah, wow, that's actually amazing. I didn't even notice that. I should have just taken Egypt. Yeah, so we can go space Sadat, space tear down this wall if successful. Although, we probably don't want to carry over tear down this wall. So they've gone into Egypt, okay. And broken us there. That is a little bit annoying. So we can containment, but I'm not going to containment now. We can AWOC sail to Saudis, because I think that's fine. And then we can pick up the pieces in Saudi Arabia with... Oh, that's way too many influence. I do not need that many. Great, so I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And look, I mean, to be honest, if I get them to take Egypt rather than giving them Sadat, like even if they play influence in here, I think that's pretty good for me at this point. Maybe you could argue taking India there is not necessary, but I think it's pretty important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'll be our 8th country, and that's like a little vulnerable since we have all three of the 1 stability countries at that point. So I think we probably want to try and take Malaysia before this turn is out, ideally. Wow, they had a super powerful hand. Okay, so now we'll go 1, 2, 3. It's good. And hopefully they've played all their good cards. I mean, wow. 2 neutral 4s and 2 neutral 3s. It's nothing to be sneezed at. So we can go to space with tear down this wall. And then if they get Sadat, they get Sadat at this point. Probably don't even want to space it. Probably even rather space containment. No, I'd rather play containment for 4 ops. So we've only got 2 plays remaining. I think we'll probably hold over Sadat and play containment. As awkward as that is now. But we probably want to play the rest of the cards in our hand. But yeah, we definitely want to get this one out of there. Obviously, so that we don't kill ourselves. So they had a space in the middle of the turn with the Reformer, but everything else has been good. So it'll be interesting to see if they've got a couple of draggy cards here that they need to dump. Oh, UN intervention for the 3rd time. Certainly a good one. And there goes that Shay, unfortunately. Okay. Well, we'll just space this. We succeeded, which means we can space Sadat here. I mean, Middle East controlling final scoring would probably do it in terms of VPs, but I think I'd rather just take containment and go 1 Burma, 2 Malaysia. Don't have a great spot for the last influence. Maybe Poland. 1 Burma, 2 Malaysia, 1 Poland. 1 North Korea. I mean, that region's already scored. Yeah, that one's a little better. Cool, so let's do this then. 1 Burma, 2 Malaysia, and I think 1 Venezuela to make, like, if they want to realign, they can realign, that's fine. Force them to realign then, rather than being able to, like, play a 1-op in there. So a very strong hand for them. I mean, like, oof, all of the good neutral cards that they could possibly have drawn at that point.
To create, to enjoy, to worship.
So the coup on Brazil that turn, like, that was worth a lot of VPs. The fact, what did we roll? A 1, I think. No, I think we rolled a 2, maybe a 3. Let's have a look. We rolled a 3. So 4+, and we basically got 8 VPs. So instead we got 2. So that roll, that was like 50-50 for 6 VPs, basically. It's pretty significant. So that was an unfortunate one. But we have had a lot of rolls that have been worth quite a lot on our coups in Africa. And we've only needed 3 pluses to succeed, but yeah. Do I think I'd ever travel to Europe once COVID ends for a Twilight Struggle tourney? Maybe. I was planning on going to Europe earlier this year with my partner and was going to be in the UK around the time of the planned Twilight Struggle World, so I probably would have played in that. So yes, the answer is yes. I do like board game tournaments and such things. But yeah, Europe's a long way from Australia, so I'd need to be over there for other things as well. Because unfortunately, Twilight Struggle does not pay the big bucks, as fun as it is. So that's us done for the turn. It's one of the saddest things about 2020 for me. I was looking forward to that tournament in the UK. Yeah, it would have been a good one. Although I think it's quite interesting that the standard of play, I think, across the world has probably improved significantly this year. Work for an airline so I can fly there for free. Wow. Super lucky. And look, it's not that far. Where are you? Nevada. It's not really that far to the UK compared to from Australia, from all the way down here where I live. It's a long way. Yes, I think that because of all the online tournaments and how much Twilight Struggle is now being played, probably compared to at least 18 months, 2 years ago, the standard of play has certainly improved a lot, I think. So crucially, coming into turn 9, we've pulled ahead on time, which is nice, and we stopped our opponent from Star Warsing, so phew. But they did get to play into North Korea, which they're always going to be able to do. We just simply didn't have the ops to stop them from playing into a battleground in Asia. So we can't really headline Soviets shoot down. But we can play duck and cover AR1, so I think that's probably the way to go. Just headlining Soviet shoot down is way too risky. So what we might do is Junta here. Ah, that's annoying. Ugh. Asia scoring positive for them. Yuck. That is super gross. And we will coup a non-battleground. Which is going to be Guatemala. And then they're going to disgustingly steal that 1 VP from us, thanks to shuttle diplomacy. Ugh. And then we're going to play duck and cover. And place 1, 2. 3. I think... No, we're going to place... Yeah, that's okay. I mean, they're probably going to realign us there anyway, so maybe that's a wasted up, but maybe it's not. Well, at least this way they have to realign. We can also go for some pretty aggressive realigns on Nigeria if we want. We can also coup Zimbabwe and then do that. And with the low ops hand, it's good to keep in mind all those different options. We need to space Soviets shoot down, and we'll probably try and space East European unrest. Just because I think going for some space race VPs this turn is actually going to be good. And a productive use of our time. And we'll probably just like randomly terrorism them in case they've got lone gunmen. I'm certainly glad we drew this as well, and they didn't at this point. But Star Wars is already out of the deck too, so that takes away some of the bite of the space race. cooing Guatemala. Okay. We'll coup back there now, I think, probably with kitchen debates. Because we need to get some VPs anyway. Sorry, some mill-ups anyway. And I just don't really want to lose Mexico again. I kind of like keeping the pressure up here because while we're ahead here, I think we're ahead on the board as a whole. If we fall behind here, then it gets just a bit too close with the current VP situation. So coup us again. 5. I think we'll just place one with one small step into Guatemala. So they can coup us again, like they can coup Guatemala again if they want to, but that's okay. War going on in Guatemala? Indeed. Like, they surely can't have another amazing hand. Like, they had an incredible hand last turn. And our last 2 hands have been terrible after being purged for 2 turns. So, yeah, like, surely they're going to get some bad cards and we're going to get some good cards at some point. We got rid of a lot of blue cards this game. Capital must be defended worse than the US's? Indeed. There are a lot of red cards left in the deck. This is one of the things about Twilight Struggle is it's like who draws the most neutral cards gets a significant advantage, and their last turn just being so chock full of neutral cards was kind of a big deal. They're cooing Haiti this time. Alright. Well, we'll coup them back in Haiti. Because we want that other mill up. That's fine. We'll give them Sadat. No more Muslim revolution because of AWOC sale to Saudis, but we can still get something with Marine barracks bombing. We might also be able to blockade them. Like, you never know. The terrorism blockade combo, at least we might have something. The problem here is that we've really got no more plays for the rest of this turn if we want to do that, but the good thing is that it's optional. So if we really need the ops from terrorism and blockade later in the turn, then we can play them. But I think giving those a go is probably worthwhile. So we'll space Soviets shoot down, and hopefully we'll still have the capacity to space EU as well. Oh, fingers crossed. It was about time they succeeded, so that's unlucky, but also kind of makes sense. Let's hope for... Oh, I really wanted that. I really wanted those 2 VPs. Okay. So we're going to be holding EU over to turn 10, which is not ideal, but it's okay. But at least we've got a couple of decent plays, and we've got the China card. And we're ahead on time, which is nice. De Gaulle comes out. Don't mind if I do. And they go all in on Europe, so let's play terrorism, see what we hit. Yeah, flower power, that's pretty good. That's 4 ups out of their hand. And now depending on what they play, like, maybe we get to blockade them. Because, yeah, that's now a 4-3-3. 2-2-2. Yeah, you never know. We've certainly drawn our fair of 1 ops though this game. That is for sure. We did JFK a couple of them out of their hand, but they were both blue. Europe would have been sweet. Hitting Europe scoring? Yeah. That would have been rad. Realignment with Yuri and Samantha. Okay. Well, we'll just blockade them and see what happens. Either they discard and lose an AR, or maybe we get to wipe them out of West Germany, which would be incredible for our chances of winning. Yeah, hitting that flower power was pretty good. Like, we could have hit that Yuri and Samantha. So that's just 2 extra ops that we got out of their hand. 2 extra realignments, which could have gone on Angola, for example. Alright, well, we got West Germany, but looks like we're getting pretty badly hosed in Africa and Asia. But West Germany's a good one. Well, do we want to headline lone gunman here? I kind of do. Nice, nobody expects the 1980s blockade, yeah. And I think we'll just quagmire them later in the turn. So we know they haven't got Chernobyl. Yeah, let's headline lone gunman. We've got a bit of a time advantage on them too, which is good. Solidarity, okay. Worth being aware of. And this is lovely because now we can see they've got Middle East scoring, VOA, which will hit on the last one. They probably can't aim away that Middle East scoring, but they got a pretty bad hand. All right, so we're going to coup in Zaire, I think, and then just repair, play 4 ops into Poland, West Germany. That sounds good, or do we want to coup here? Let's coup here. And then go 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to Europe domination. And then we'll see what happens from here. I mean, we have a terrible hand for us. Like, we have some pretty bad stuff, but we can afford to play the China card probably this turn. So that improves things a bit, and they don't have a supremely high ops hand. Got Air War, Iran-Contra scandal, Aldrich Ames, Ortega, Latin American debt crisis, which is pretty bad for them actually. Latin American debt crisis is a bit of a problem, although it's not a huge problem. Yeah, because now we've lost our influence in Venezuela. It's kind of much of a muchness. So they might want to play that now. Or they might not. Either way, being able to dump this Europe scoring for free is pretty good. And hopefully being able to quagmire their VOA last action round. They haven't got anything that's going to interrupt that, have they? Don't think so. That Aldrich Ames is unplayable though if they want to play VOA last, so they might not play VOA last. They might hold Aldrich Ames and Middle East scoring for their last play. But either way, let's just coup in Costa Rica. And then play Europe scoring. Should have probably spaced there. That was an error. I should have spaced special relationship. Okay. I don't really want to commit operations points to Central America at this point, so now I'm going to space special relationship. Nice. Those were important VPs to get, and if I play a 3-op, it has to be a bad 3-op into Central America. I think that's just not good news for me. They can also VOA middle of the turn there, and it's pretty bad. So we need to be really careful. Yeah, space was massive. So Iran-Iraq war into Algeria and overprotect. I'll take Lao, I think. It's going to be good. So what have they got now? Left in hand, we've just got to tick these off. We've got Latin American debt crisis, Aldrich Ames remix. They got 5 cards. Voice of Iran-Contra scandal, Voice of America, Aldrich Ames remix, Latin American debt crisis, and Middle East scoring. Okay. So it's going to be hard for them to dominate us in South America. I possibly should have played into Dominican Republic, actually. Oh, they're cooing, okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because they needed Millops. and they discard Aldrich Ames. Okay.
Mr. Gorbachev,
So that means they have to play Middle East scoring. And that leaves them only with 3 cards for their 3 action rounds. One of which is Iran-Contra scandal. So I can play Quagmire, Chernobyl, China card. So I'll play China card first. Will I? Yeah, Middle East is so big, you're right.
the totalitarian world
China card's just not that important for me here, I don't think.
such violence to the
So I can Quagmire potentially next AR, and that's massive. I think Chernobyl is actually not a big deal. Because they only get 1 AR to play, and they presumably then play with Iran-Contra scandal. Oh no, that's pretty bad, because then they could VOA. I'm not going to Chernobyl. I'm going to... I just want to do nothing, basically, here. I want to pass. So what am I going to do with this? I can break them in... I can go 1, 2, 3. That doesn't get me domination. Okay. I can go...
Today,
1,
today I say, as long
2.
as this gate is closed, as long as this scar of a wall is stand, it is not the German question alone that remains open, but the question of freedom for all mankind.
3, 4. Let's go with that. Because now I think our opponent's going to play... They could VOA here. If they VOA here, it's a bit annoying. But I still get to nab an AR from them, and then I have to play Middle East scoring. So, like, this Quagmire is just going to be great either way. And I'm going to get to Chernobyl for free. Okay. Well, now slightly less so. So now I don't quite get to Chernobyl for free. Because if I go Chernobyl and they go VOA, then that could be a problem for me. But I'm just going to do it, because if I go Chernobyl and they go VOA, I think that's okay. Let's just see. They could go like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they're 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I still win on points at that point. So I think if I go with Chernobyl, 1, 2, 3, that puts them in a pretty bad place to be able to deny me everything in 1 action round. Gotta drop Middle East via Aldrich. Yeah. I just don't know why they wanted to avoid Latin American debt crisis there. All it was going to do was get me 1 op in Brazil, which was going to be interesting. Like, it's not interesting. Not at all interesting. Very boring, in fact. Realignment. Lovely. That's exactly what we wanted. We don't really care about Central America, since we also now have El Salvador, a country whose name I did not just forget. And then we get to Quagmire for the win. Thank you, everybody. That was a very close game. He didn't know about Quagmire. That is correct. And there it goes. So thank you for watching. I've been Jesse Marshall for The Winning Agenda. Finally, a couple of wins on the trot, I think, in the ITSL. So that's all good. This game will be up on YouTube for anyone who wants to watch it. If you want to support the channel, you can follow us, subscribe, whatever you like. We appreciate the support. And I will actually be back tomorrow Australian time in the morning to play the first Ritzel match in the Stalin division, which is the top division of the Ritzel, the Reddit Twilight Struggle League, for next season. So if you want to watch that game, I think it's going to be at about 9 o'clock Australian Daylight Saving Time, Eastern Daylight Saving Time, which is GMT plus 11. So what does that make it? That makes it 11 p.m. GMT tonight, if you want to watch that game. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Cheers.